Hello, hello, wonderful people. Welcome back to this week's Sovereign Divinity podcast. And this season, season two, we're starting this season two with an amazing topic, which is light language and light code. Because here's the truth, more and more people are feeling that pressure, the call to allow the light to flow through them. And here's the thing, the light is actually codes within you that wants to be expressed right now because humanity needs it at this time. So a lot of you will be drawn to this series, you're there. And the purpose of this series is for you to know that you're not alone. You're not alone on this journey. And there's also so many ways that your codes want to be expressed. So as you're listening to these interviews, just absorb it in and see who you connect with and just flow with that and feel the support and the love that will be pouring through. So I hope you're ready for this. I have an amazing guest speaker today on the show, and I'm going to read her bio because she's pretty amazing. Okay. Let me pull it up real quick. So today I have, oh my gosh, Erin Sunniva. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Sunniva McHugh. She is a priestess, an ordained priestess of the goddess Isis in the Fellowship of Mary Magdalene, two goddesses that I roll with. So when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, yes, you are sister. Absolutely. She is a spiritual life coach and a mentor for women on the path of sacred self-discovery. Erin is a psychic medium and spiritual alchemist, working with the divine light to bring healing to her clients and her human community. She is here to help you discover your spiritual strength and authority and to own your gifts and talents so that you can be a powerful and divine force of love in this chaotic world. She's also the founder of the Temple of Emerald Rose. Beautiful. She creates healing music, teaches online courses in spiritual alchemy, and leads workshops all around the world. She mentors, initiates, and co-facilitates sacred pilgrimages to Ireland, the UK, and France. Welcome, Erin.
Thank you so much. What a blessing. Thank you. I'm
Oh,
excited
man.
to be here.
Yes, I'm excited to have you here. I'm excited for us to dive into this yummy topic. So let's start with this. How did your light language journey begin? How did that whole thing start?
Gosh. Well, I think that my light language started a lot sooner than I knew it was light language. I was recalling the other day as I've been playing with my 1-year-old and speaking light language to him, and he totally gets me. He totally understands every bit of how I used to do that with my daughter, who's now 10.
Yes.
And so we've always had our language that we still have, that she still holds very sacred to herself, that it's our language, right? But divinely aligned with a teacher that I was working with probably 6 years ago now, and who was, she works with her light language, and she helped me to open up using sound, and it was really easy for me. It did not take long for me to be like, oh yeah, here it is, here I am. Yeah.
So it was more like a remembrance then.
Yeah, an opening, a door that opened, that I knew was always there, but I didn't really
Yes,
know what was behind it.
totally. And in what ways does your codes express itself? Is it through speaking, writing, drawing? How does it
Yeah,
come out?
definitely initially through sound, through speaking it, through singing it. When I tone, I can hear light codes coming through
Yes.
in the vibration, and I'm like, that's not my vibrato. What is that? It almost sounds like Morse code, and it has, and sometimes I have to go searching for it, like, light codes, what frequency are you on, and then that can open up through more spoken. I draw a little bit. I feel that my written light language is certainly not as developed as my vocal. I just lean into my vocal and don't necessarily use my written until I'm really, usually I call upon it when I need a strong sigil or a
Yes.
strong spell.
Yes.
Or
Yes.
energy that I'm calling into my life. Like when I was pregnant, I created an image of a vortex and it was surrounded by light language. And it was probably the third or fourth time that I ventured into it with my hand. So
Yes.
yeah, it's quite a journey. It's quite a
It
journey.
is. I just love hearing the story of just how it comes through for most people and what even they choose to step into more. I noticed that some people, like most people, they notice that, they can draw it, they can speak it, they can, sing it, but then one area feels really good to them. So then they lean in there. And there's no right or wrong way with this. It's just what wants to come through and how do you want it to flow. I love listening to that. So real quick, and I should have asked you this at the beginning, I want to hear from your perspective. What is light language and what is light codes?
Light language is the language of your heart that nobody else on earth can speak but you. It's completely unique to you. You couldn't even try and copy somebody else's. You couldn't. It's the language of your soul that is not mitigated by your brain. When I have work to do or I'm trying to communicate something, English gets in the way.
Oh, yeah.
And I try to, maybe circumvent that if I'm in a specific situation. Maybe, Portuguese or Spanish is helpful in that moment. But those are also terrestrial languages that cause us to go into our head. And the only way that we can understand, with quotes, light language is by listening with our hearts and feeling. There's, if you try to understand with your brain, you're not there. It's not for you, and you certainly will not understand, Yeah.
Yes.
Light codes certain frequencies in rhythmic pattern or, however they formulate. I see light codes sometimes in binary form, or I'll see them like the Lord of the Rings language that's on, it's inscribed on the ring and the way it lights up. I've seen my body covered in that when I receive light codes.
Yes.
I visited my Atlantean self and saw that I had pretty much inscribed myself with light codes. So,
I was
so
about
I
to
see
say,
it.
yeah, I was about to say you totally were, you're like a priestess and it looks like tattoos all over you. And then you said that.
Do you see blue? I see them blue. Like in my mind's eye, I see the light codes as gold for, But,
yes.
yeah. And in this life, I have 12 tattoos and the major color is blue. And so I don't know if it's because of that or it's just a resonance. I mean, I am a blue ray, so
There you go.
it's probably why I see it. Yeah. Does that answer your question about light codes? Yeah. The toning is usually when I first realized that I was experiencing light codes. I was gazing at the image of Hathor that everybody has, right? If you know who Hathor is. And just toning, and I was praying for healing, for hearing in my left ear. And as I was toning, I started to see just this golden energy, like fairy dust coming out of my mouth and coming around and going into my ear and working on my ear. And that was probably 17 years ago. So I think certain that was my first experience of seeing light codes. Yeah.
Beautiful. Wow. That's incredible. And I guess that takes me to the next question. How do you use light language or light codes, like either, both? How do you use it in your life?
Well, I certainly use it to express myself in ways that I cannot express myself any other way. Usually it's because I've dropped out of my head and into my heart and my body to do spiritual alchemy for myself or for others. And so that it just gets so much more difficult to speak, as I said. So it's just easier for it to flow that way. But usually it's when I'm downloading, channeling, I'm in an Akashic session with a client or something, and I'm receiving information. Sometimes it'll come through in light language first, and then I'll see the images and I'll feel the feelings, and then I can translate as well. But it's also a blessing at the same time. It comes through as a blessing, you know, as a medium, when I want to open up to the mother's blessings, if I'm working with people, usually I do this with groups. She always has a lot to say. So I'm like, I think we should open up to see what blessing the mother has for us. And that's always just so wonderful and just feels like a balm on the heart and soul. So, you know, when I'm praying and as well as channeling blessings, yeah, it's always the most powerful form of work that I can do. Like when I need to be calling upon the help of the deity because I'm coming up against an obstinate demon, you know, this is not, you know, this is not child's play, you know. And so I have to open myself up to that greater energy that is not terrestrial and cannot be held in a terrestrial container. Does that make sense? Yeah. So we're going into multidimensionality now.
Exactly. You know what's interesting, when you said what you just said kind of triggered a dream. Well, I shouldn't say a dream, because it's been just series of dreams where like when I'm doing my light work, so usually there's a lot of battles, and I noticed myself that I would speak in a different language, but I didn't know what was going on. I thought I was just trying to like speak, but I couldn't speak. But now that you're saying that, it took me back to the dreams, and I was like, oh my God, I was speaking light language in those dreams. Like, he just took me right there. Wow, that's incredible.
That's so cool.
So cool. That is so powerful. Yeah, it's like a powerful force that you call to just come through and just bulldoze. Like is, and it makes sense. It's a representation of source. It's unlimited.
Exactly.
The most powerful form of energy, the most purest form of energy that you can use to assist humanity, to assist yourself, your evolution. Like, yeah.
Isn't that awesome? Yeah, you know, then you got to get out of the way too, you know.
Yeah,
it's not an easy feat. You know, it comes with practice and discipline and getting out of the way and trusting that your ego is not participating. The ego cannot participate in any way, or else it's not real and it's not happening, and you're just speaking gibberish.
Yes, exactly. So let's talk about that. How would you know if you are speaking from the mind and ego versus from that portal of the heart?
Well, you can feel it. I in the beginning, if I were in ceremony when I was getting comfortable with doing it, I remember feeling really tight in my heart and not open in the way that you need to be in order for it to flow. And so it would end up feeling like it didn't come out completely. So the more that I would just really trust, you know, really listen and know that it's not about me, know that those who are on the receiving end of the light language, that light language is for them, right? And as a psychic or as a medium, you know, you learn along the way that, you know, maybe there's some lessons in it for you, but the importance of being a pure vessel is so that everybody else can receive what they need, you know? So that getting out of the way and trusting is key, is truly key.
Yeah. So as you stepped into your gift of expressing these light codes, your own light codes, what are some of the challenges that you faced? And this would be, whether personally or, outside, working with outside forces. What are some things that you faced that kind of made you want to close it back up, or, stop it, or, you know what I'm trying to say? Yeah.
Well, judgment, for one. People think that,
Yes.
we're loons. um, I do remember a moment of seeing a friend's live video who was like facing her own judgments around light language, and she was being very open and vocal about it, and she's like, I just don't trust it, it makes me laugh, I can't take it seriously, and
Yeah.
she ended up actually being a really beautiful teacher for me. We're close spiritually, right? And so we really connect on that way, and I'm like, well, that this is personal for me. I know that what I'm doing is real, and that's what matters. That's the key, right? I don't question it. And she reflected back to me, oh, no, your light language is real, because I have that knowing and that conviction that my light language with her did not make her, snicker or question it.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people who are still coming into it,
Exactly.
who are figuring it out for themselves and maybe being too public to begin with. And they're still in their ego and not in their true presence. And I'm not boasting in any way. I'm speaking as an experienced person, right?
Yes. Yes.
So
absolutely.
it's a journey, and it's important. I know that people process. I'm in a group on Facebook, of light keepers, light code keepers, and we have a responsibility to the truth. We have a responsibility to the light, to be humbled.
Yes.
To be humble in our work with it. And if we are publicly processing, please be clear with the public that you are learning, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not that we ever stop learning, right?
No.
But at the same time, it's, I've seen people's, and I try to not be judgmental, but I can always tell when people are either really questioning themselves, really doubting themselves, or really trying to look like a certain thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
With that, because I know that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast series and summit series, so that people can understand that, because it's very vulnerable when you're starting. And for me, it was easy for me because I've been doing this work for how long? So I knew if I'm in my heart, I can share it out, and whoever needs it will receive it. It's just like all the other, work that I do. But when you're starting, and this is absolutely new for you, perhaps your first spiritual work that you're sending out to the world is very vulnerable, because you're speaking this thing that you perhaps don't even understand what's coming out of your mouth. And it's supposed to heal or activate or do this for someone else. And you're like, I don't even know what is going on. How is it doing that? Right. So there's a huge chunk of trust, just knowing that what is coming through you is for a higher purpose that is even beyond you. It's huge. And then being surrounded by people who will support you. So like being in that community, and I love that Facebook group, by the way, absolutely love it. There's so many talented people in there. It's so key, because then you're like, oh, I'm not alone. Oh, look at how that person does it. I do mine the same way. You're surrounded by it, and it boosts your confidence, and that support helps you to move forward, because you're not alone on the path.
Right. Yeah. It's such a responsibility too. You have to know what you're taking on if you're really gonna trust it and dive in. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's see here. There was a question. Oh yeah. This will probably be a question that anyone who's stepping more or being called to share their light codes and light language, is that there are people that, if you go on YouTube, you can like type in light language, and so many people are like, I'm channeling Pleiadian, I'm channeling Sirius, I'm channeling the goddesses, and I've heard, I've talked to some people who are like, well, mine doesn't sound like that lady. That lady, her voice is like divine. Why doesn't mine sound like that? So let's talk more about that. Like I know there's no right or wrong way. What wants to come through you will come through, and it's all for purpose. And so who do you channel anything? How does it work for you when it comes to that?
I have kind of steered away from trying to channel any one thing. I prefer to channel myself, channel my higher self. I'm connected with my monadic self, with my 12th dimensional cosmic self. Yes. And I'm, when I need to, I connect and I make my downloads. I receive my own codes. Usually I'm in the bathtub because it's like, water is such a beautiful conduit, Yes. I'm a water priestess. So, I'm so grateful for baths. But yes, so that's where mine comes from. Usually, well, that's my intention to start. I do know that different beings will come to speak depending on who I'm working with.
Yes.
And as I said before, sometimes I will call on the Great Mother, Universal Cosmic Mother, to come and provide a blessing through me. But the majority of the time, it's my higher self. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think that's so important to talk about, because if someone is beginning or starting to step more into it, like, it's important for you to know, who the heck are you channeling from? And are you even supposed to channel anybody? The main point is here, this channel, your channel, like that needs to be plugged into source. Your codes come from that. And then if there's anything else, it comes through your higher self, right? And it helps you so that you're not exposed and just it's a mess. I've worked with clients where it's like, hey, come back. And I went through that at the beginning. I know I'm a channel, like it's part of me. And I started seeing people like channeling other things. I was like, oh, let me channel this person. Let me channel this person. And of course I can. But then it started to steer me away from who I truly am as a channel, which is a channel for source. Mine is just the center pillar, the center path. I don't need to go anywhere else. If they have messages, they come through my higher self and it'll come through me. But I don't need to channel anyone. It's so cool, and it's so important for people to understand that. Just because someone says I'm channeling the Pleiadian, if that doesn't vibe with you, it's not for you, and you don't have to. Right. You got to find yours. Like mine, the codes come straight from source, comes through me, and we talked about this in the intro. Just comes right through my channel to my heart, comes to my throat, and then comes out like that. And when I saw it, I was like, all right, then that makes it easy for me. I don't have to worry about anything else,
Yeah, so it can get complicated. You can make these complicated by trying to understand, like when I'm doing clearings for people, sometimes I'm having to I'm translating beings. I'm translating from their language and going through that process. And, that can just make things really, you have to go through this whole filter. When you're channeling your higher self, you don't have to go through any filters, or you don't have to translate anything. You can just let it out.
It just comes through. Exactly. It's beautiful. Yeah. It's easy.
Yes.
And it just feels great. It feels in alignment. And you're like, I'm still in my sovereignty. I haven't steered anywhere, but it's coming through fluidly. Oh, yes.
Why go anywhere else? Why go anywhere else?
Exactly. Yeah. I guess sometimes I can see how it, the flashiness, like, well, everybody is, channeling Pleiadian. So maybe I'm supposed to, or maybe I just want to see what that would be like, but it's like, okay, you can be curious, but come back to you. Mm-hmm. This is the time, and it's coming in very strongly. We're in a time where it's time for you to focus on what your codes are and channeling or sending and expressing those codes. We've spent too much time accessing other people's codes and trying to make it ours, whether consciously or unconsciously, right?
Oh my goodness. That's exactly what I was going to say, is like, it's not out there, it's in there, you know, and if we're going to speak multidimensionally, that's here. That all happens here, right? This is the engine, right? But, and for the podcast, I'm pointing to my heart. But, you know, when we get in our ego about like, oh, should I be doing that? Should I be doing that? Then you've lost your authenticity right there. Yeah. If somebody shows up while you're channeling yourself and your higher self is okay with it, that's when you start channeling something else. But when you go looking for things, then you go looking for trouble, because in the fourth dimension, not everybody is your friend. And when you are just starting out, let's say you don't have a relationship with your higher self or with your guides, you're not shielding yourself, you're not centering, anchoring, pillaring, right? You know, you're in a whole mess of trouble, and you're going to have a lot of cleaning up to do as a result of it. Yeah. Ooh. To your audience, please be careful and learn from people who have learned the hard way.
And I'm glad that you said that. So how can they tell if someone is trustworthy to learn from? You know, how, when they're listening, especially for me, I knew it because when I'm listening to someone talk, like light language in general brings me to tears. It moves every cell in my being. I'm in tears. But when I listen to someone who's not authentic or channeling the right thing, I don't feel shit. Nothing comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
or it might feel sick to my stomach. Yeah. I'll start to feel nauseous. Yeah, absolutely. You know, discernment is the operative word here. You know, we have to have a relationship, a connection to our intuition in this world, or we will not survive. We will be taken over, you know? And so that is the first muscle that you should be working when you're like, I wonder if this person, you know, is good or not. You know, well, how do you feel while you're listening to them, whether they're speaking English or not? You know, if you start to feel like you're not doing very well, like, man, you start kind of hating on yourself while you're listening to them, you know, that's probably not a good person that you should be listening to. You want to be listening to somebody that is literally raising your frequency, you know? Yeah. And just as you said with the light language, you will know if it's real or if it's not. Yeah.
It is very much, I think what I'm seeing more and more is that even though it's such a high frequency, high vibrational, you know, thing that is coming through, energy that's coming through you, it's a very physical experience. Your entire body lights up with it. When it comes down, like there's a point, like I'm speaking, I'm starting to dance. I'm like, oh, this is a body thing. Okay, I'm moving. Okay, it's moving through me. My hands are moving, you know, and there's some people that will do the hand stuff too. It's a physical thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just.
And you can feel it. You can see, see the light coming from their hand. You're like, oh, you know, and that's where your inner vision starts to show you what else is happening, because you start to see, oh, the fabric that they're like playing, this dimension, this frequency that they're like, bing, bong, 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 ding, dong, bong, bong, you know, while they're speaking. It's like, whoa, for your eyes, for your ears, for your whole being. Yeah, that's a transmission.
Yes. Oh, yes. That's the type that I'm sitting there just bawling, like, oh my God, this is beautiful.
So beautiful.
Oh, so before we go to the section where if there's a message coming through, you can share with our listeners, what are some golden nuggets you would like to give to, you know, our listeners who want to step more into their codes and share it, and, you know, perhaps allow the language to come through or speak it confidently, knowing that they're in their true core? Like, what are some golden nuggets you have for them?
Well, the way that I support my students in opening to their light language is to start with a gentle tone. You know, just as you would Om, you can
Mm.
do the Ah vowel, because then you're in your heart, right? So starting with an Ah and just being really gentle and just throwing in consonants to just see what they feel like, and, you know, really being present in your body, just like you were saying, being loose and having called in your higher self. And maybe
Yes.
you can start dancing to some nice light music, and then just let yourself tone and start tossing in those consonants, and or really slow, or maybe there's a different vowel that you're being drawn to. Go there and just feel, you know, let it really be authentic. Let where your mouth wants to go, your mouth is gonna follow, you know. And if your heart wants to, oh, you know, and then you need to like, oh, then you do it, you know. It's like, I really support, I'm a trained vocalist. I have a degree in
Yes.
singing. And so I support everybody to be as vocal as you can, you know, to express yourself, especially to express your spirit, you know. But through just letting your body be free and loose, maybe laying on the floor, rolling around, and like allow yourself to just let go and make the sounds that you need to make, and watch what happens. And maybe you'll find yourself spiraling a little bit, and then you'll go ping, right? You'll feel your energy just align, and it comes right through.
Yes.
It can be really fun to play with. Be playful. Yeah.
And
don't take yourself seriously until you're ready. Until you're ready to take yourself seriously.
Absolutely. And listeners, if you're hearing this or if you're watching this, did you feel, as we were like, I feel like we were like flowing off of each other, and it felt like we were dancing. And did you guys feel that rhythm that was flowing through? And we're not even speaking like light language, but it's flowing already. It's a resonance. It's a vibration. It's a frequency that goes beyond even our words. Just because we're speaking it, like that's just a form. That's just a way that it wants to come out. I can sit here and be quiet and stare at you, and you will feel that same thing. And I know, Erin, you can do that same magic too.
Isn't that cool? We're such amazing beings.
Yes.
We're such amazing beings, capable of incredible things.
Yeah, and it's time for us to open the heck up and allow that amazingness to flow.
Yeah.
It is time. Yeah.
I do want to speak to one point there.
Yes.
That the importance of your codes, as and you alluded to this earlier. You know, we're all here at this very divine specific time that is slightly traumatic, slightly painful, slightly, right? Really, really challenging in so many ways, in all of our unique, lovely story ways. And we have a responsibility to ourselves, to each other, to be anchoring in the light codes that we came here to receive in the first place. Right? And when I connect my galactic self, I know that I'm doing a service by doing that. Not just so that I have all of myself and all of my information that I agreed to bring in, but I'm doing that for you too. And we, my students and my clients, we do this, we connect, because everybody, there are important innovations and inventions that we're waiting for you to download. That these are like interstellar science that has not been discovered by humans yet, because we need to expand, because we need to open up and download these frequencies. We literally have a responsibility to humanity to be open to our source selves so that we can.
Whew, woman.
Thank you. I just have to get that out.
That feels bloody awesome. Like there's a moment where I was taken into Egypt, and we're in a temple, and we're like teaching, and we're just like pinging off of each other. And it felt like that same flow I was feeling before I'm still feeling.
No,
I know, right? Oh my
Yeah.
God. So,
Mhm.
well, we've set the stage. My love, is there something, is there a message, is there a light deliciousness that would like to come through you for our beautiful listeners?
Alhari amasato koi, hari mialar hindia sasha kokoi la hari mianta. Vuso toi han marra halianti si koshukotoi han marianta. Ankiaso to shukotoi ho maria lar ama inkiasa ama inkyokoi hal arahanta kiomor koi as shalar. Soto koi, soto I arhalia masar. O hal orko ko hamayasan to ko shoko la hanyasar ko siamar. Unkasha ko sotoyam hal riamarakok. Halinga morko sotoya shakianta. Shoko halara hama inya to ko la rahasintika umorakoi. Shkola hantiatast. And the dog is getting it. Chino. Yeah. Please. I'm sweating now. And then there's more. Ariah mahania sokoto shokoto hal ariah lan koi maria sokoto shokoto la maria lach. Ama hasien to ko siala ramiata koi. Yolor koi. I ndo koi. Santa ko shokoi hal armia santa ko koi halalai. Ankala haraka sotoye maharia larha kia santa. Ankala ko shokota yator. Alara mai. Unkoya. Ama. It's hard to open one's eyes after that because it's really bright in here. Light language makes the world brighter.
It really does. Absolutely. That was beautiful.
I hope the sound didn't distort at all. I had to turn away from the microphone.
It was really cool because as you did it, it's almost like it would go quiet on my end, but I could hear the frequency, the different frequencies come through. Yeah. When I post it, listen to that part and see. It was really cool. It's almost like all the outside noise got cleared out and it was just pure frequency. Oh, it was beautiful. And you can hear it. Like, oh, I have chills. It's so cool. That was beautiful. The first part, I felt like Mary Magdalene was talking to me. It felt like it was the language of Mary Magdalene. Like I just kept hearing Magdalene and I kept feeling Mary Magdalene. It was so interesting. And then the second one was like a totally different vibrations. Like it switched into, so it was so cool. So what was the message in there? Like what was happening as,
Yeah, two distinct parts divided by the dog, right?
Yeah.
How interesting, how very interesting. And that was also because my husband was like sneaking around in the back trying to be quiet. So the first part really felt like a continuation of what I had just said in English.
Yes.
And was really like, come on, everybody.
Yep.
Let's go. It's time to get to work. It's time for you to heal yourself. It's time for you to show up and deal with your interpersonal relationships, your karma, your family karma. Clear it up. Come on, it's time to get to work. Yeah. And then the second part was absolutely Hathor calibrating.
That makes sense. I felt that. That was wow.
And I feel my solar plexus explode by saying it out loud too. You know, she's like, I've had a lot of Sekhmet with me too, with this like full moon in Leo. I'm just like, you know.
Yes, the lioness. Oh man. Okay, so I wanted to ask you a last question. Where did you go?
Don't let it end. I don't ever want this to be over.
I know. I know. So what are some ways that, how can we use light language? Did that make sense? It's like, what are some ways that we can use light language?
Do you mean why would you use it?
Exactly. There we go. Thank you.
Okay. To say what cannot be said any other way. When my language comes out with my baby, it's because I can tell he doesn't understand my English. And so I speak light language and he goes, oh yeah. And he'll literally turn to me and smile and nod.
My son does the same thing. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, so it's like, how can I communicate my heart to you because you're not hearing my words, right? And so with light language, you're surpassing the brain trying to figure out what you're saying, right? To receive that information, and it automatically goes into the heart. Yeah, that's its job, is to bypass the brain.
I love that you said that, because now it makes sense why light language is known as the universal language, because it is the language of the heart, regardless of where you are from, what kind of star seed you are. It still connects to the heart, and it is just pure vibration, and any being, any living being understands that frequency and vibration currency.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. It's like it's like the smile. You can smile in any language. It's always a smile.
Yes. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. We're dropping some golden nuggets in this one. Woo.
I think I heard that in a movie. I don't know where I heard that. It's not original.
Crack me up. Oh man. My dear, thank you so much for joining me in this delicious chat. And how can people who want to work with you, how can they contact you? How can they find you?
Sure. So Divine Singing is the name of my company, divinesinging.com. But you can also find me at erinsunniva.com, SUNNIVA, which means the gift of the sun. So just to drop that little blessing into this space. And So that's the best place to find me. I'm doing on Valentine's Day, which is World Sound Healing Day, I'm teaching a Be Your Own Sound Healer workshop. And for anyone who wants to open up their throat, open up their voice and their heart, this will be a really valuable, nugget, as you would say, to have for yourself, because you can take your voice with you wherever you go. It's not an instrument that you can put down. So we can really support ourselves through toning.
Man, make sure you send me that information so I can put it in the show notes for our audience, our listeners too.
I will.
But thank you so much for joining me for this chat. And thank you, listeners, for receiving this just, oh my gosh, this blessing, this magic, and just from our hearts to yours. And until next time, goodbye, everyone.